You may think that's a strange thing to believe. Maybe you don't. But I believe that this business will make that come about. And I'll end now on Robert F. Kennedy's quote again, and I hope that I know you've understood his words. Some men see things as they are and say, why? I dream things that never were and say, why not? And why not? Here's Pat.
Okay. Relentless pursuit of a personal goal. And, I said earlier, you say you haven't got a dream or you don't know what your dream is. I can understand that to a degree because it was something we struggled with, or I certainly struggled with in the early days. But nevertheless, there is something there. There is the seed that I spoke about earlier on. And it does need to be pursued. But before you can even embark on pursuing it relentlessly, you have to understand one basic principle. And that's the principle of life. It's nothing to do with the business, although it's very relevant to the business. And that is that nothing worth having in life ever comes easy. Nothing worth having in life comes easy. We have to work for it. We have to earn that success. And that has been proved beyond any shadow of doubt over the years. Hundreds of years, wise men have stated this fact of life. And we've only got to look around at society today to realise that that's true. People often talk about having a lot of money, and people will say, well, love of money is evil, money's the root of all evil, which isn't strictly true. It's the love of money that's the root of all evil. But those people that seek wealth or the short-term answers to wealth never really keep the wealth. Look at the people that win the pools suddenly. 1 million, 2 million. Within a few years, it's gone, disappeared. They can't handle it. They don't know what to do. It never stays. Look at all the get-rich-quick schemes that come and go, and people make money out of other people or by using other people, but they never keep it. It never stays. Look at the success that's gained through corruption. Maxwell and people like that. Yeah, a few years ago, people looked up at him. Oh, Robert Maxwell. But you see, underlying all of that was corruption. He didn't keep it. It never stayed. He used other people. Money doesn't bring happiness. It's a fact of life. It doesn't bring happiness. But if you develop money as a result of other people, you will receive happiness. Not necessarily always from the money, but the feeling of being able to help other people. The feeling of pride in seeing other people move on in life. And that's really the principles of this business. Some of you may be here for the first time and get very excited about the potential of the money, and that is very important to a degree. But I guarantee you this, your pride is going to stand high above everyone's when you see somebody that you've helped cross stage. That's going to be more important than the money. You may find that difficult to believe now. But you see, that in itself is a goal. See that happening for you now. See that happening for you now, that you're going to be able to help someone cross stage. Take your eyes perhaps off the money for the time being and think about what you could do to help someone else succeed and what you're going to feel about helping other people succeed. And don't worry too much about this business about the dream. You have got it there. It's there. It's within you. All of us have. But very often we try to fake our upline out over it, don't we? We pretend to get excited about big cars, houses and stuff like that. But that isn't always the main dream. What happened with us, the example Greta quoted, when Bill O'Brien said what he said, and this was many years ago he said it, and as Greta said, he mentioned it again at this Dream Weekend. When he mentioned it a few years ago, and I had the discipline to sit down and try to make Greta sit down, of course she wouldn't, as she told you. But it made me think, you see, it focused my mind on a goal. And Bill said, take your mind off the house and the car and that sort of thing. He said, goals are important, step at a time. Goals can change as well. But you achieve your big goals by a series of small steps. And I had to really think hard, maybe for about an hour. And that's why eventually, when I thought about it, and I thought, well, I do need another suit. That excited me more than anything else. That became one of my main goals. But it was a stepping stone goal. It was a goal on the way to other goals as well. But it was a measurement for me. It allowed me to measure our success in the business. So that became my burning desire in the early days. It sounds ridiculous maybe to some of you, but that's as simple as that. What I'm trying to say, I think, is that, it doesn't always have to be the big glamorous things. They are there, of course they're there, but you're not going to believe they're going to be attainable unless you get the smaller goals first. But you've also got to realise, because the good things in life don't come easy and that we're almost forced to fight for them, you've got to realise we're going to be challenged. We always are challenged. And I don't mean challenged by way of people putting us down, although that is part of it. But again, when you look back in history and think of successful people and look at the successful people, and one I can recall very easily because I can remember this vaguely, being the age I am, was Roger Bannister in the 4-minute mile. Now, let's think about that. Before Roger Bannister broke the 4-minute mile, people were saying it was impossible. Aren't people saying that to you today? Aren't they saying that it's impossible to build this business? Did Roger Bannister have many cheerleaders when he was fighting to break the 4-minute mile? No, people were laughing at him, saying it couldn't be done. Was he encouraged by many people? Maybe a few close friends. Maybe a few, but not many. Are you encouraged in your business? Well, I hope you are, at least by the people that you're working with, that are helping you. But you're also encouraged by the whole audience today. And, that's why those recognitions are so important. That's why we put such an importance on recognitions. You've got a lot of cheerleaders. But you see, in the game of life, most people will say, well, I can't see it ever happening, like they said with Roger Bannister. There was loads and loads of doubters. Loads and loads of doubters. And probably when he broke the 4-minute mile, some of those doubters said he was lucky. But you see, what he did, he broke the barriers, because once having achieved the 4-minute mile and broke the 4-minute mile, then since then lots and lots of other people have done it. And that's exactly what's happened with this business. In the early days, people were saying it doesn't work. But it only took a few people to move on with this business. It only took a few to reach the direct and the pearl and the emerald and the diamond level, and the belief gathered that momentum. Yet 10, 11 years ago, people were saying it couldn't happen in the UK. It's all right in America, fine in America. Wouldn't happen in the UK. People in the UK wouldn't get excited about that. How many times have people said that to you? How many times, maybe if you've got into Wales or Scotland or some other part of the country? I remember when we started coming over to East Anglia. Yeah, wouldn't work here. People are different here. Can you imagine Edison when he did all those experiments with the light bulb? I don't know how many it was. I'm not very clever at these things. It was many thousands. But you see, he was trying and trying and trying and trying. He failed so many times. And you're trying and trying and trying and trying, and you're failing. Of course you're failing. You've got to fail your way to success. But you're going to succeed if you keep failing. That's the beauty of this business. Fail yourself to success. Keep failing, but keep on trying to succeed. And let's say it was 10,000 experiments Edison did. Can you imagine it after 8,000 experiments? And Edison's friends came round and said, coming down the pub? No, I won't come down the pub. I'm experimenting and I've got this vision of a light. What will they say? Well, come on down the pub, leave it. What do they say to you? What do they say to you when you're going out and showing the plan? Or you're working the business, or maybe you're coming here today and you've had to leave your children? Yeah? What do they say to you when you maybe leave work and throw a sandwich in the car and shave as you're driving along and drive and show the plan? What do they say to you? You see, they said the same things to Edison. So you've got to recognise that a business like this takes that sort of commitment. But not only a business like this, a business with any sort of success record takes that sort of commitment. But what kept Edison going? What kept Walt Disney going when he had no money but he had this vision of theme parks? What kept Roger Bannister going? They had that unshakable doubt about their own dream. That was it. No one was going to put their focus off that dream. They believed it. They didn't waver. They wouldn't let anyone else put them off it. They were going to do it. Total commitment to it. And that's what it takes. And maybe some of you are sat there, I couldn't get that committed to anything. Well, that's fair enough. But equally, you will never achieve anything unless you commit yourself to it. You've got to have that determination, that unshakable belief, single-mindedness, the doggedness that goes along with it. The good thing about this business, you have a lot of cheerleaders to help you on your way. In the commercial world, you don't not necessarily have that. But it's a commitment to a goal. It's a commitment to a goal, and to further put pressure on yourself, a commitment to a goal with a time limit on it. That's the important thing, to have a time limit on it. And goals can change and time limits can change. But you've got to have a focus on a goal with a time limit as well. So it's work and focus. But maybe the very word work puts some people off. Maybe the very word work will put some people off. And maybe some of you won't be put off until you actually come to actually do it or have to do it. What I want to do is read you very quick. I don't usually read from books from stage, but there's a book of the month that's coming out in about, probably about 3 months' time. And I'm not going to tell you the title or anything yet. You don't need to know that. But I want to read you a passage from it. Now, I don't pretend to apologise for this because it's partially from a biblical passage, but I changed a few of the words. Those of you that have problems with that sort of thing, you need to change a few words sometimes and start thinking of some of the stuff you read and align it with the business. Right, and I'll read it to you now. And this illustrates the work ethic. And in those days, behold, there came through the gates of the city a distributor. And this distributor came from afar, and as it came to pass, as the days went by, he sponsored plenty. And in that city were they that were other distributors, and they that spent their days in adding to their alibi sheet. Mightily were they astounded. They said one to the other, "What the hell?" I didn't put that in, that's what it says. How doth he getteth away with it? And it came to pass that many were gathered in the back office. And a soothsayer came by, and he was one wise guy. It says that as well, I didn't put that in. And they spoke and questioned him, saying, "How is it that this stranger accomplished the impossible?" Whereupon the soothsayer made answer, "He of whom you speak is one hustler. He ariseth very early in the morning, and goeth forth full of pep. He complaineth not, neither doth he know despair. He is arrayed in purple and fine linen, while ye go forth in pants unpressed. While ye gather here and say one to the other, Verily, this is a terrible day to work, he is already abroad. And when the 11th hour cometh, he needeth no alibi. He knoweth his line, and they are that would stave him, they give him orders. Men say unto him, Nay, when he cometh in, yet when he goeth forth, he hath their name on the dotted line." He won't accept rejection, you see. "He taketh with him the two angels, inspiration and perspiration, and worketh to beat hell. Verily I say unto you, go and do likewise." Brilliant, eh? Of course, some people will start to read that and think, "Oh, it's biblical, I'm not going to read that." But how silly. You know, you've got to start maybe sometimes to think, well, hang on, some of these words that are written, you just put it into everyday English and start to think of it as far as the business is concerned, and generally business is concerned. And there's a lot of common sense amongst all that. But you see, work that is what it's about. It's about work, and even with a simple example like that, people say no to him, but he doesn't accept that. He's got to keep going on because he's got those two angels with him, inspiration and perspiration. Very good. So it's focusing on a dream, focusing on a vision, and that's what keeps people going. That's why the people that are succeeding, because they just focused on that vision. They kept the vision clearly in mind, the dream clearly in mind, the goal clearly in mind, clearly in focus. And the trouble is, a lot of us take the focus off the goal. Remember, if you're making a commitment to yourself, to the voice inside yourself, you can't fool that voice. You can't fool that voice. You've got to keep the goal, firmly in mind, and make that pact with yourself to achieve that goal. No matter what happens, no matter what the circumstances. I mean, I thought about this coming here today. We drove here today. Our goal was real simple. It was to get here. Okay, we had to get here from London, as it happened this time, but we didn't know exactly what we were going to meet on the way. We didn't know. How did we get here, first of all? Well, we got here by a series of steps. We had to work that out. That was our goal. The same as we had a goal in the business when we first started and still have goals now. We sat down and worked out those steps. We had to leave the hotel and get to the A40. We had to get from the A40 to the M25. M25 onto the A11, and then from the A11 onto the 604. I know it sounds stupid, but that's how we worked out our goal. What's your goal? What's your goal for the business? Have you worked it out? Have you worked it out in those series of steps? Have you planned the series of steps? Have you put a time frame on it? We had to put a time frame on it. How long was it going to take me to get from the hotel to here? I figured 2 hours, very roughly speaking. What's your time frame? What's your time frame to get from where you are now to where you want to be in this business? Our option was varied in time frame because the time frame was left up to us. The time frame for you in the business is left up to you. We could have taken the soft option on time frame to get here. I said we decide on 2 hours. But I could have took the soft option. I could have said, well, let's not put ourselves under pressure, Greta. Let's take 10 hours. Let's say it's going to take us 10 hours. You could be doing the same with the business. We won't put ourselves under pressure, Mildred. We'll just coast along with this business and we'll get there maybe to the 9% level in 5 years. That way nobody's going to give us hassle. Nobody's going to give us hassle, Greta, if we take 10 hours to get here. We can meander around the country here and there, dawdle, stop off, eat, do whatever you like. That's a soft option. No, we chose an efficient option because we wanted to get the job done. We wanted to be efficient. We had other things to do. And we wanted to fit it in. That's what you should be thinking of with this business in your own time frame for your own goals. Get the work out of the way. It's not all work, this business. It's not all work. You see, the funny thing about work is this. When you've achieved success, you forget all the bad things that's happened. You forget all the no-shows. You forget all the rejection and everything else. It's almost like pain. It's almost like pain. I mean, if you've got a real bad toothache, once you've had the thing treated, the tooth extracted or treated or whatever else, the memory of the pain diminishes. But the pain is very intense at the time. The work is very intense with this business, but it's short-term work because of the duplication process. Once the work's out of the way, everything else is on a downhill slope. Set your own time frame, but put yourself under pressure with a time frame and get the work out of the way. How did we know how to get here? Rang up the hosts and said, how do we get here? He said, I'll send you a fax. And he sent us a fax. Real simple. On the fax was a map. It said you go from the M25, etc., etc., etc. And we followed the game plan. Are you following the game plan? Do you know how to get from where you are to where you're going? Have you checked with your upline? Have you counselled with your upline? Have you asked your upline? And has your upline given you advice? Oh, we could have looked at that map and thought, don't like this, looks a bit scruffy. Let's try it our way, Greta. we'll do it totally differently. That would have been real dumb. That would have been real dumb. We just accepted on faith that he knew how to direct us here, and we followed the path. We followed the route. It sounds very obvious, but how many of us are doing that with the business? How many of us sit down with our upline and get counselled by our upline, or goal set by our upline, or with our upline, and yes, our upline to death? Yes, 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 very motivated at the time. And then first week into the month, we don't think we're going to hit our goal with the, PV or sponsoring or whatever else we're goal setting ourselves on, and we turn off. How many of us have already turned off for hitting our goal in February? How many of us have turned off for hitting our goal in February, yet there is still a week to go? There's still a week to go. And maybe your goal was, we'll say, to hit 12%. Maybe your goal was to hit 12%. And maybe your goal was to sponsor 2 people. And there's a week to go and you haven't done it. Most people will turn off from that goal and say, oh, well, we'll take the soft option. Let's reappraise our goals. Let's go for another month and try again next month.